Are you really living according to what matters most to you, or just letting the day drag you wherever it wants? Today I'm going to talk about why a modern man should look to Stoic philosophy when setting his priorities. Real success doesn't actually come from outside opportunities. It's hidden in your own discipline and decisions. As Marcus Aurelius said, a man who cannot control himself can control nothing. Those words are still relevant and still guide us today. But let's be honest. Even when we think we're in control, most of us end up moving according to other people's expectations. Earning more, getting more approval, being more visible. Sure, they sound attractive. But are they really your priorities? This is where you need a different perspective. The Stoics invite us to develop the ability to separate what really matters. As Epictetus taught, focusing on what we can control and letting go of what we can't doesn't just save time. It also gives us back our freedom. That's exactly where this video comes in. In a world full of endless triggers, from phone notifications to work, from social life to personal goals, how can you clarify what's truly valuable to you? Inspired by Stoic philosophy, I'm going to show you 5 steps to define your own priorities. If you're ready, let's dive into these steps that will simplify not just your mind, but your whole life. In modern life, we all think we're in control of everything. But then your phone rings, emails pop up, notifications pour in from social media. You plan one thing, the world heads in another direction. This is exactly where the Stoics step in and say, separate what you can control from what you can't. It sounds simple, but it's a life-saving perspective. Look, last year a well-known athlete got caught in a storm over a social media post. Thousands of people commented, hashtags exploded, the media chased him. At first, he tried to reply to every message, explain himself to everyone. The result? More stress, worse performance, ruined sleep. Then one day he stopped and realized, I can't change what people think. But I can manage my own training, my own statements, my own attitude. He handed his social media over to his team, went back to training, got himself back on track. The criticism didn't stop, but its impact faded, because he focused on what he could control, not what he couldn't. Another example, at the start of the pandemic, an entrepreneur was about to expand his cafe chain. Suddenly, lockdowns hit, revenues dropped, costs spiked. At first, he panicked, took on debt, ran aggressive campaigns, but nothing worked. Then he sat down and asked himself, I can't change this pandemic, but I can change my costs, my business model, my way of reaching customers. He switched to delivery, built an online ordering system, and not only survived, but opened up a new revenue stream. Same lesson again. Let go of what you can't control. Focus on what you can. Both stories share one thing. Whether it's a social media storm or an economic crisis, you can't change other people's behavior, global events, or market swings. But you can change your thinking, your attitude, your plan. That's where the real power lies. So how can you put this into practice? Simple. Write down the issues in front of you. Ask yourself, do I really control this, or is it outside my control? Set aside the things you can't control as information only. Don't waste your energy there. For the things you can control, make a concrete plan and take those steps. Turn this into a habit, and both your mind and your path will get clearer. The Stoics were saying this thousands of years ago, and for a modern man, it's still one of the most effective strategies today. Now we've reached the second step. Clarify your core values. Did you know Marcus Aurelius used to ask himself every morning, What really matters to me? Even as Emperor of Rome, he reminded himself of his values every single day so he wouldn't get lost in palace luxury. Power, fame, money. He had all of it within reach, yet he prioritized inner values like justice, virtue, and self-discipline. That's why he's still respected today. The same thing applies to modern life. We're all running around trying to keep up. Career, money, social life. But which of these are truly important to you? If you don't set your own compass, you end up drifting according to someone else's. Take Elon Musk, for example. Some people find his decisions controversial, but one thing's clear. In space exploration, sustainable energy, and AI, he moves according to his own priorities and vision. That's why he sometimes takes heat in the short term but keeps pushing toward his long-term goals. Without clear values, he couldn't do that. A smaller-scale version of this plays out in everyone's life. Let's say health and family are your top priorities. That means instead of always staying late at work or spending every weekend out with friends, you consciously carve out time for exercise and for your family. Even if it means saying no to others, in the long run, it's more satisfying because you're living by your own values. So how can you do this? First, grab a piece of paper and honestly answer the question, what really matters to me? Is it money, freedom, family, health, learning? Then write down 3 or 4 of those values. Look at that list when making daily decisions. New job offer, new relationship, new goal. Ask yourself, does this align with my values? If the answer is no, have the courage to say no. If it's yes, move forward with confidence. Clarifying your values is like taking your life's compass into your own hands. From Marcus Aurelius to Elon Musk to any of us, the principle holds. When you know what you want, setting priorities becomes easier. And once your priorities are clear, life feels less chaotic, and every step you take moves you toward who you truly want to be. Now we've reached the 3rd step, serving your big goals through small daily actions. For the Stoics, discipline wasn't something that only showed up in a crisis. It was built through everyday behaviors. When Seneca said, "Time is our most valuable treasure," this is what he meant. Big change doesn't start with big decisions, it starts with small daily choices. Take a historical example. Have you ever thought about Marcus Aurelius' meditations? Even as Emperor of Rome, he carved out time each day to write notes to himself, not to publish a book, but to strengthen his own character. That simple daily practice kept him steady as both a leader and a man of virtue. Even while running a vast empire, he spent 15 or 20 minutes reminding himself of his principles. The result? He's still remembered as the philosopher emperor. Now think of a modern example like Novak Djokovic. His place at the top isn't just talent, it's his daily routines. From sleep and nutrition to stretching and meditation, he's repeated small habits for years. Without those, he wouldn't have the resilience he shows in the most critical matches. Those big trophies aren't just about the few hours on the court. They come from years, months, and days of micro-discipline before he even steps onto it. The same applies to our own lives. Say your big goal is to have a healthy, fit body. You can't create a miracle overnight, but you can move for 15 minutes a day, swap out one fast food meal for something healthier, or go to bed half an hour earlier instead of scrolling on your phone. Each of these is small, but together they carry you to your goal. Or maybe you want to learn a language. 10 minutes of vocabulary a day and an hour of speaking practice each week can bring you to a high level over time. So how do you bring this mindset into your life? First, write down your goal, then break it into daily micro steps. Pick small tasks you can actually do every day, measurable, not overwhelming, but consistent. Put them on your calendar. 10 minutes of meditation every morning, 3 pages of reading every evening, 5 minutes of stretching at lunch. Once it becomes routine, your brain goes on autopilot and you don't need to go hunting for motivation. Consistency builds itself. In short, big goals aren't conquered all at once. They're built up through the accumulation of small steps. Just like Marcus Aurelius writing his lines every day or Djokovic repeating his routines, you can serve your own big dreams with small, steady actions. That's the third step of the Stoic approach. Progress patiently, consistently, through small daily moves toward your big goal. Our fourth step, learn to say no. For most people, saying no feels hard. It can seem like you're disappointing someone or missing out on an opportunity. But from a Stoic point of view, saying no is really saying yes to yourself. Epictetus put it this way: you can't control what others say, but you can set your own boundaries. That's the essence of saying no. If you don't draw your own lines, other people's demands will pull you away from your goals. Here's a historical example. When Steve Jobs was rebuilding Apple, he often said, "Innovation is not just about what you say yes to, it's about what you say no to." Apple's famous focus culture came from Jobs saying no to hundreds of projects, which let the company pour its energy into a few great products. In other words, the things he said no to actually accelerated Apple's growth. Saying no was his way of staying true to his vision. A modern sports example. Basketball legend Michael Jordan turned down countless sponsorships and events at the peak of his career. Why? Because he wanted to prioritize his training, recovery, and game prep. That's how he invested not just in his performance, but in his long-term legacy. The things Jordan said no to made his yes to the game even bigger. So how does this play out in your own life? Say your goal is to start a business. Your friends want to go out every night. People keep asking you to do small favors. If you say yes to everything, your energy drains and your real goal falls behind. The key is to learn to say no kindly but firmly. A simple line like, "Thanks, but right now I need to focus on something else," lets you protect your boundaries without offending. Another tactic, make a priority list. Write down your goals and rank them. Automatically say no to offers, projects, or invites that don't align with that list. It might feel tough at first, but over time your mind relaxes. Every no creates space for a more important yes. As Marcus Aurelius said, staying true to yourself is the greatest freedom. In short, saying no isn't a loss, it's a choice. Just as Jobs said no to projects and Jordan declined offers, you can say no based on your own priorities and save your energy for what truly matters. This is the fourth step of Stoic discipline. Center your life on your own values, not other people's expectations. Say no politely but clearly when you need to, and steer your life in the direction you really want. Focus on inner satisfaction instead of outside approval. In today's world, one of the biggest traps is constantly chasing other people's approval. Social media likes, friends' comments, workplace praise. All of it gives a quick hit of satisfaction, but in the long run, it pulls you away from your real goals. Epictetus said, "You can't get anywhere until you're at peace with yourself." In other words, know your own values and goals first and stick to them. Other people's opinions should be just information, not what shapes your life. Here's a historical example. Stoic philosopher Seneca lived in the wealth and complexity of the Roman Empire, yet chose to focus on his inner discipline and values. Wealth and fame didn't define his happiness. Controlling his own thoughts and actions did. Because Seneca shaped his life around inner satisfaction, his teachings are still relevant today. A modern example is Warren Buffett. His success isn't just about financial genius, it's about his focus on inner discipline and contentment. Buffett doesn't invest based on what people around him think. He stays true to his own strategy and values. That's why he doesn't get lost in short-term popular trends and instead builds steady growth over time. Other people's opinions don't sway his decisions. The same goes for our own lives. Let's say you're a software developer starting a new project. Everyone around you says, "Don't do it, it's too risky." Or maybe social media is full of people doing something completely different and you feel the pressure. This is where focusing on inner satisfaction matters. First, remind yourself of your goals and values. Does this decision truly mean something to you? If yes, then other people's comments can't knock you off course. There are a few ways to practice this. Make a simple daily checklist. Did I do something today that aligns with my values? Evaluate your actions and decisions from that angle. Also, notice how you react to other people's comments. If needed, wait a few hours before responding and only take steps that match your inner sense of meaning. Over time, other people's opinions become just information, not your source of motivation. In short, a modern man's greatest strength is inner satisfaction. Seneca's and Marcus Aurelius' teachings, along with Warren Buffett's example, show that focusing on your own values and goals instead of chasing outside approval brings both mental freedom and real success. Inner satisfaction becomes your guide even in a chaotic world. And that's the fifth and final step of Stoicism. Listen not to others, but to your own inner compass and shape your life around it. So my friend, today, we talked about 5 steps inspired by Stoic philosophy to help a modern man set his priorities. First, we learn to separate what we can control from what we can't. Then we discuss the importance of clarifying your core values. We saw the power of serving big goals through small daily actions. Learn to protect our boundaries by saying no. And finally, we explored the importance of focusing on inner satisfaction instead of seeking external approval. These steps may sound simple, but once you put them into practice, they can completely transform your life. In today's world, we're constantly bombarded by external stimuli, phone notifications, social media, work pressure. Saying yes to everything, living up to everyone else's expectations, and chasing their approval drains our energy and pulls us away from our real goals. But remember this: if you focus on what you can control, clarify your values, take small but consistent steps every day, learn to say no, and center yourself on inner satisfaction, your life will start following its own compass. This isn't some secret the Stoics have hidden for thousands of years. It's a real, actionable method. Now it's your turn. Which step can you start applying today? Which priorities do you need to redefine? Even a small step can make a big difference. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us about your experiences and see that you're not alone on this journey. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications to catch future content. See you in the next video. Take care of yourself and don't forget to manage your priorities. Thank you for watching.